Dear brothers and sisters, welcome back to another video. In this one, we're considering the Congregation Bible Study for the week of August 25th to 31st, 2025. Let's get started. Lessons 12 and 13. Let's start with number 12. And we read, about Jacob got the inheritance. Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah. He loved her very much. In time, they had two children, twin boys. The older boy was called Esau, the younger one, Jacob. Esau loved being outdoors, and he was good at hunting animals, but Jacob liked to stay at home. In those days, the oldest son was given most to the land and money when his father died. That was called an inheritance. In Isaac's family, the inheritance also included having part in promises that Jehovah had made to Abraham. Esau didn't care much about those promises, but Jacob knew that they were very important. One day, Esau came home very tired from a long day of hunting. He smelled the good food Jacob was cooking and said, "I'm starving. Give me some of that red stew." Jacob said, "I will, but first promise me that I can have your inheritance." Esau said, "I don't care about my inheritance. You can have it. I just want to eat." Do you think that was a wise thing for Esau to do? No, of course not. But it was a deal. And Esau gave away something very precious just for a bowl of stew. Okay, let's see the questions. What does this account teach us about Jehovah? First of all, Jehovah values the heart and motivations, not just tradition or position. Although Esau was the firstborn, his heart was not with Jehovah or with the promises of the Abrahamic covenant. Jacob, although imperfect and with questionable methods, longed for and valued that spiritual inheritance. Jehovah saw that disposition in his heart. Jehovah is a God of purpose. His purpose to produce the promised seed, as we read at Genesis 3:15. Through Abraham's line didn't depend on the social convention of the firstborn's right, but on his sovereign selection based on faith and the right attitude. Another comment: Jehovah respects free will, but holds us accountable for our decisions. Jehovah didn't force Esau or compelled Esau to despise his inheritance. He allowed Esau to act according to his own desires and then face the consequences of his impulsive choice. Jehovah is a protector. By allowing Jacob to flee, Jehovah protected the family line through which the coming Messiah, Jesus, would eventually come. The next one, what practical lessons can we learn from this account? Not to trade eternal or spiritual treasures for temporary pleasures. This is the main lesson. Esau trades something of immeasurable value, the inheritance and the blessing, for the immediate satisfaction of a physical desire, hunger. It's a warning against impulsiveness and putting material needs or desires above spiritual ones. The importance of obedience to parents. Despite the complicated situation, Jacob obeyed his parents when they told him to flee, and this obedience likely saved his life. Another comment: giving proper value to spiritual things from Jacob. Jacob understood the value of God's promise. His desire, although executed deceptively, was to be in a position to receive Jehovah's blessings. We must cultivate the same appreciation for a relationship with Jehovah and the promises of the kingdom. Impulsive decisions have serious consequences. Esau's action in a moment of weakness affected the rest of his life and his place in history. It teaches us to pause and think about the long-term consequences of our actions. How this information could be applied in the family. Teaching children to prioritize. Parents can use this account to teach their children to value important things. Family, biblical principles, the congregation, responsibilities, assignments, the relationship with Jehovah, above instant gratification like playing video games instead of studying or choosing bad associations for popularity. Another comment related with this, encouraging communication. Rebecca and Isaac face a difficult family situation, and this serves to analyze the importance of communication between spouses and with children to resolve conflicts, although in this case their method was not ideal. How this information could be applied in the congregation. Encouraging perseverance. Many in the congregation may feel tired or hungry for immediate relief from trials. This account encourages us not to sell our spiritual inheritance, the hope of the kingdom, peace with God, to escape a temporary difficulty through compromise or sin. Teaching about the value of the spiritual birthright. It can be emphasized that today there is no literal firstborn's blessing, but all anointed Christians and the other sheep have a precious spiritual inheritance, a clean conscience, the hope of everlasting life, friendship with Jehovah, that we must not underestimate or undervalue. And how this information could be applied in the preaching. We can use Mark 8:36-37, and this account is a perfect illustration of Jesus' words in the ministry. We can ask the question, have you ever known someone who traded his principles for a temporary benefit? The Bible relates such a case, and this can lead to a conversation about what we truly value in life. Talk about God's promises. It can be used to explain how Jehovah has been directing matters since ancient times to fulfill his purpose, showing that the Bible is a current account leading to the hope of the kingdom under Christ. Let's move on to lesson 13. Jacob make peace. Jacob and Esau make peace. Jehovah promised Jacob that he would protect him just as he had protected Abraham and Isaac. Jacob settled in a place called Haran, where he got married, had a big family, and became very rich. Eventually, Jehovah told Jacob, "Go back to your homeland." So Jacob and his family began to long trip back. On the road, some people came to Jacob and said, "Your brother Esau is coming, and there are 400 men with him." Jacob was afraid that Esau wanted to hurt him and his family. He prayed to Jehovah, "Please save me from my brother." The next day, Jacob sent Esau a gift of many sheep, goats, cows, camels, and donkeys. That night, while Jacob was alone, he saw an angel. The angel started wrestling with him. They wrestled until the morning. Even though Jacob got hurt, he could not give up. The angel said, "Let me go." But Jacob said, "No, not until you bless me." The angel finally blessed Jacob. Now Jacob knew that Jehovah couldn't let Esau to hurt him. That morning Jacob looked into the distance and saw Esau and the 400 men. Jacob went ahead of his family and bowed down before his brother 7 times. Esau ran to Jacob and threw his arms around him. The 2 brothers burst into tears and made peace. How do you think Jehovah felt about the way that Jacob handled this situation? Now the question reads, what does this account teach us about Jehovah? Jehovah is a God who values peace and reconciliation. The fact that Jehovah blessed Jacob's efforts to make peace and to soften Esau's attitude shows that his desire is for us to resolve our conflicts and seek unity, imitating his own peaceful character. Jehovah disciplines us and strengthens our faith. The struggle with the angel was not a punishment, but a lesson. Jehovah allowed Jacob to struggle to teach him to depend not on his own cunning as in the past, but on the strength and blessing that only Jehovah can provide. The injury was a permanent reminder of his crucial lesson. Also, we learn about the importance of facing problems from the past. Jacob couldn't run forever the consequences of his actions. He had to face his brother. It teaches us that although difficult, it is necessary to face pending conflicts to have mental and emotional peace. Prayer is our first resource, not the last. In the face of crisis, Jacob prayed first. He didn't rely solely on his own plans. It teaches us to turn to Jehovah for guidance and strength before acting. What practical lessons can we learn from this account? Humility is key to reconciliation. Jacob bowed down 7 times before Esau, an act of deep humility and submission. To resolve conflicts, we must set aside pride and be willing to take the first step, even if we're not entirely to blame. Concrete actions support words. Jacob didn't just say, "I'm sorry." He backed his request for peace with a generous and tangible gift, the herds of animals. Sincere apologies are accompanied with visible efforts to make amends for the harm. Jehovah can change hearts. Sometimes, when there is an opportunity. The biggest obstacle to peace was Esau's angry heart. Jacob prayed for that, and Jehovah made it possible. It gives us hope that not situation is irreconcilable with God's help. How this information could be applied in the family. Resolving quarrels between siblings. This is the prime example. Parents can use this account to teach their children the importance of forgiving each other, making peace, and not holding grudges, just as Jacob and Esau did after 20 years. Teaching how they apologize sincerely. We can analyze how Jacob approached with humility and generosity. It teaches us that a true apology involves humility and, when possible, an action to make up for the mistake. How this information could be applied in the congregation, fostering unity and resolving misunderstandings. If tensions arise between brothers, this account encourages us following Jacob's steps. Number 1, pray for wisdom and for the other person's heart. Number 2, take the first step with humility to reach out. And 3, actively seek peace, not to be right. Trusting in Jehovah in times of anxiety. Many in the congregation may feel like Jacob, anxious about a situation that seems overwhelming, like an illness or a personal problem. The account encourages praying with faith and trusting that Jehovah will fulfill his promise to help us. And how this information could be applied in the preaching, illustrating the power of prayer. It can be used to show people how prayer can change circumstances and hearts. just as Jacob's prayer turned a potentially violent encounter into a peaceful one. Talking about forgiveness when meeting people who hold grudges or are estranged from their family, this story can be shared as a biblical example of reconciliation. It can be connected with the verse from Matthew 5:44-45 that comes in the lesson, showing that loving and praying for those who are angry with us is a divine principle that can lead us to surprising results. And of course, demonstrating that the Bible is realistic and we find honest information. The story doesn't hide Jacob's fear and mistakes, his plan to appease Esau or the past conflict. Many people today, they're hiding their conflicts, their mistakes. They don't apologize, they don't recognize, they don't have this humility, but in the scriptures we find these qualities. And this makes it very real and applicable for people facing similar situations today. Okay friends, thank you so much for joining us. That's a wrap for this video. We hope you have a wonderful day, be safe, and see you next time.